You're about to pour yourself a drink tonight, maybe wine, maybe beer. You'll do it without thinking, the same way you brush your teeth or check your phone. But here's the thing nobody tells you. That urge in your hand right now is not new. It is not modern. It is not even human. It is a 50-million-year-old instinct wearing a very good disguise. Let that sink in. Long before there were bars, before there was beer, before there was a single human being on this planet, there was fruit rotting on a forest floor, sugar breaking down, wild yeast drifting in on the breeze, invisible, uninvited, and ethanol quietly forming inside the flesh of that fruit with zero human help. Nature had already invented alcohol. It just needed someone to find it, and something did. Picture a small, furry creature, not even close to human yet, moving through the trees 50 million years ago, hungry, always hungry, and catching a smell on the wind, sweet, sharp, unmistakable. That smell was a shortcut. It meant sugar, it meant calories, it meant survival. The animals who could smell that fermenting fruit from farther away got there first, ate more, lived longer, passed on more babies. Generation after generation, that one preference got burned into the genetic code. There's a name for this. Biologist Robert Dudley calls it the drunken monkey hypothesis, and it flips the whole story on its head. You didn't start drinking because it feels good. It feels good because your ancestors who found fermenting fruit survived better than the ones who didn't. Every sip you take tonight is an echo of a hungry primate sniffing out a rotting mango. Here's where it gets even weirder. Buried inside your DNA is a gene called ADH4. It controls how fast your liver breaks down alcohol. Scientists traced its history and found something almost too perfect. Around 10 million years ago, that gene suddenly mutated, becoming 40 times better at metabolizing ethanol. Guess what else was happening 10 million years ago? Your ancestors were climbing down out of the trees, spending more time on the ground, exactly where fruit falls, exactly where it rots, exactly where alcohol pools. Coincidence? Maybe. But your body doesn't usually change that fast for no reason. So somewhere deep in your genes, there's a reward wired in for finding fermented sugar, not for getting drunk, for getting fed. Alcohol wasn't about escape, it was about survival math. But that's ancient history. What about actual human history? Fast forward, bigger brains, better hands, and humans stop finding fermented fruit by accident. They start noticing something else. Leave wet grain sitting in a clay pot too long, and wild yeast lands on it anyway. And a few days later, something is bubbling in the bottom, sour, strange, a little intoxicating. You didn't invent this. You just walked in on it. Archaeochemist Patrick McGovern has spent his entire career scraping residue out of ancient pottery, testing it in a lab, chasing the oldest alcohol on Earth. And the pattern he keeps finding is almost eerie. In China, over 9,000 years ago, a mixed fermented drink made from rice, honey, and fruit. In the mountains of Iran, jars from 7,400 years ago, carrying the unmistakable chemical signature of wine. Civilizations with zero contact with each other, on opposite sides of the planet, discovering the exact same trick. Wait, if that's true, it changes everything you thought you knew about why humans settled down in the first place. You were probably taught this. Humans invented farming. Farming gave us bread. Bread gave us civilization. Clean story, tidy timeline. Except anthropologist Solomon Katz looked at the actual evidence and said, not so fast. Early grains were hard to digest and nutritionally weak on their own, but ferment that same grain into a mash, and suddenly it's easier to digest, richer in nutrients, and it does something bread never could. It makes you feel calm, social, warm. In a brutal, uncertain world, that wasn't a party trick. That was medicine. So which came first? The bread, or the buzz? Head to a site called Göbekli Tepe in modern Turkey, over 11,000 years old, older than farming as most textbooks define it, and inside, massive stone vats, with residue suggesting large-scale fermentation, meaning some of the very first permanent structures humans ever built might not have been built to grow food. They might have been built to keep the beer flowing. Say that out loud. Humans may have settled down, gave up the nomadic life, built cities, also the drinks wouldn't stop. And there's a reason this pattern shows up everywhere, in every corner of the ancient world. Alcohol does something rare for a species that only survives by sticking together. It quiets the part of your brain scanning constantly for threats. It lowers your guard just enough to trust a stranger. Mesopotamian workers were literally paid in beer. Early religious rituals used wine to bond entire communities. A slightly relaxed brain forms alliances faster, and in a species built on cooperation, that was priceless. So here's where that leaves you tonight, glass in hand. That drink didn't start as a treat. It started as a signal of abundant calories on a forest floor, 50 million years before agriculture existed. It became a way to preserve grain and unlock nutrition humans desperately needed. It became the social glue that let total strangers trust each other enough to build the first cities. Somewhere in the middle of all that, it also became fun. But the fun came last. The survival came first. You pour a drink tonight and you assume it's just a habit, a taste, a choice. But your body has been rehearsing this exact behavior for tens of millions of years, long before the word human ever meant anything. The smell that once meant ripe fruit now hides behind a label and a price tag. The chemistry never changed. Only the packaging did. So the next time you crack open a drink without thinking twice, remember this. You are not making a modern choice. You are answering a signal older than your species,